there, it's Christy with the Chirpy YouTube channel. Today I'm here to talk with you about social play. A couple of weeks back I posted a video about solitary play and the different stages that kids go through as they are developing. I also talked a little bit about how you can encourage development in certain areas if a child you know seems to have gotten stuck with play. In that video, I explained the stages of solitary play and how kids typically develop through those as they are growing. I also talked about ways that you could help your child or your student if he or she seems to have gotten stuck in one of those stages. Of course, I can't leave you without advancing our mission to help kids of all stages if I don't share with you more information about social play. Because of course, we know that kids need to play socially as well as in solitary ways. And in fact, social play is a higher level skill than is solitary play. I will very quickly run through the 4 stages I mentioned in the solitary play video, and those are unengaged play, which is very self-focused and inward focused; sensory play, which is just as it sounds, a child engaging in enjoyable sensory activities; 3, closed-ended play, which is taking part in an activity that only has one way of doing it, such as pushing a button and a jack-in-the-box pops out; and 4th, open-ended play, which is play in which all manner of things can happen. There are many, many different ways for the play to occur. There are many different scenarios that the child can participate in. If you would like more information about solitary play, please take a peek at that video that I did right up there, and that should be very helpful to you as you think about where your child might be, or your students, and how you can help push her in a gentle and accommodating way. Now let's talk about social play. Social obviously means more than one person. Your child or your student is going to be interacting with peers, with other kids. This is obviously going to be more challenging for most of our kids because our kids have social deficits in many cases. If you're watching this channel, it's likely that the children that you're working with have some sort of social delay. Maybe your child has autism, in which social deficits are part of the diagnosis. Maybe your child is language delayed, and that makes peer play a lot more difficult because she can't communicate her needs and desires as well, or she doesn't understand what the other kids are asking. There are all sorts of reasons why social play is more difficult than solitary play, and it makes sense when we think about it. So we need to provide more support. In my field, I'm a speech-language pathologist. We always talk about scaffolding, and scaffolding is very much like what you might see on the wall. We look to see where the child is currently functioning, and then we look to see what the next level is, and we provide the support that the child needs in between to be able to function at a little bit higher level, as long as we provide lots of support. And then we start backing out the support, and the child is able to hopefully still function at that higher level. This is how we get kids from one level of play to the next, or one level of language to the next, or one level of motor skills to the next. It really is the basis for everything that your interventionists are going to try to do if your kid has developmental delays. Let us start out by talking first about the first stage of social play, which is unengaged. Now, honestly, this is not a stage of social play because the kid is unengaged. But I need to start here because I need to be honest about the fact that this is where most of our students start. When we start working on social play, most of our kids who have developmental delays are going to be unengaged. They're really not all that interested in interacting with peers. And so they're doing their own thing. We can help with that. Sometimes parents will tell me that their child is playing with peers, and then when I watch, what I see is unengagement. I see a child doing his own thing, and there may be some other kids in proximity who are doing something else. And to families, this often looks like peer play. It looks like the kids are interacting, even though they're not. This is unengaged play. That's what I mean. Not interacting with other kids, even if they're sort of in a similar proximity to each other. Many children have difficulty being in proximity to peers. Peers are loud. Peers are often confusing. Peers are sometimes communicating at a level that is too difficult for my students or maybe your child to participate in. A lot of our kids who have developmental delays prefer to hang out with kids who are significantly younger, 2 years younger or more, or kids who are significantly older, usually 2 years older or more. And the reason is because the younger kids don't have any expectations of them, and the older kids or adults are able to compensate more for those deficits that our child has. But it is very important that as much as possible we move our child towards interacting with people, with kids her own age, because that's where her development is going to be happening. And because it's harder, we need to encourage it as much as possible. Obviously, we're not going to push it all the time, but we're going to keep trying to make that happen as much as we can. If the child you're thinking of or working with cannot tolerate unengaged play anywhere near peers, then we need to talk about distress tolerance a little bit. And distress tolerance is a skill that we all need to have before we can function in the world. I have videos about distress tolerance, and I'll link one right up there. It is the ability to stay calm and regulated, going about the world, having a normal life. Sometimes things happen that upset me, and I have to be able to stay calm most of the time in spite of those things, because otherwise I can't function. We want our kids to be able to learn those skills too. The idea is always to move slightly and slowly toward the more desired behavior without pushing the child over the edge into a meltdown, because that is not efficient or effective for learning any skills. So if your child is willing to sit 20 feet from the rest of the class when they are playing trains and he is using a light up toy with one button, then perhaps that's what we do for 3 days or 5 days. And then next time we set toys up, I set it up 5 feet closer to peers. Maybe the kid doesn't even notice, because 20 feet to 15 feet isn't that much. And I keep on making the distance between my target child and the rest of the class smaller and smaller until they are in very close proximity to each other. Before we can play together, we have to be able to tolerate being in proximity with one another. And that is one way to do that. It's very slow, it's very gradual. As soon as the child notices and protests, you can try saying, "It's okay, they're not that close." Or, "If they're too loud, I can wear my earphones." We can offer the child support for whatever we think is the problem. If it just requires a little bit more time, then we back up a foot and we give it just a little bit more time. And then we start again. We're constantly playing the edge. One of my yoga videos talks about playing the edge, meaning that you're constantly stretching, but not so much that you hurt yourself, not so much that it's significantly unpleasant. If you don't stretch yourself, if you don't feel the stretch, then you're not improving your skills. But if you stretch too far all at one time, you're liable to get an injury. And that sort of edge is the same thing we want to always be working on with our students. They need to be stretched, and yet not so much that they shut down and are incapable of participating in the world around them. If you think your child is worried about protecting his stuff, then you might start teaching phrases such as, I can say, "Give that back," or "It's mine," if my friends try to take my stuff. So we can pre-teach how to advocate for self and protect our stuff so that it's not so scary if there are other kids nearby. Stage 2 is observational play. This is where a child notices that the kids nearby, because now we've gotten close enough that she can see those kids nearby, now she notices that those kids nearby are playing, and they're playing with toys, and they are having a good time. Maybe not toys, maybe they're playing a make-believe game, but she notices those kids. This is a big deal, because when kids notice other kids and observe them, they're much more likely to be persuaded to interact with those other kids. Yay, that's what we want. In order to help kids move to this stage from the previous unengaged stage, we first get them close enough, of course, that they can see what the other kids are doing and hear what they're saying, and then we start drawing their attention to these other kids. So we might say, "Ooh, look, Landon is pretending to be a fireman. He's putting out a fire." Or, "Wow, look at that. They're making some pancakes." We just want to keep on drawing the child's attention to the other kids so that she will get more and more interested and less threatened by what she doesn't yet know or understand. Stage 3 is parallel play. And parallel play is exactly how it sounds. The kids are playing in parallel. Therefore, they're playing with the same toys, they're playing similar things, but they're not interacting with each other at all. So if Landon is playing firefighter, my little girl might choose to play firefighter as well. I'm encouraging her, "Look, Landon is playing firefighter. Should we put out fires too? Here's your hose, here's your hat." And she puts out fires. We want this to happen. We want to help our kids learn how to engage in the same play activities as their peers are, so that eventually, of course, they can partake in them together. We want to encourage the step from observational play to parallel play by, as I just did, pointing out what the other kids are doing and trying to get our target child to do the same thing, even though it's not with those other kids quite yet. If the other kids are making pancakes, pretend pancakes, we want to make pretend pancakes. We want to make sure that we have, if necessary, more than one set of toys, because sometimes it's not possible that there are enough toys for everyone. But we want our target child to be able to make pancakes too, if that's what the other kids are doing. We want our target child to be able to blow up rocket balloons, if that's what the other kids are doing, because this is the next appropriate step. Parallel play is another type of play that two families and people who are not professionals in the area of child development believe is actual joint peer play, because it looks like it. The kids are all playing with the same toys, they're all kind of in the same area. This is peer play. My kid is playing with other kids. Well, sadly, not quite yet. We hope to get there, but this stage is not actually peer play because they're not interacting with each other. There needs to be interaction before it is actual play. The fourth stage of social play is joint play or cooperative play. This is a great stage because it means the kids are finally interacting. Our child is willing to be part of whatever social activity is going on with the other kids. If the other kids are building a sandcastle or many sandcastles at playtime out on the playground, our child is building sandcastles too with the other kids, and there is back and forth, maybe sharing of buckets or sharing of little people or flags or whatever the tools might be for building sandcastles in your playground. Let's say that in the parallel play stage, the group of children is playing cars and they're crashing them into each other, and I am able to convince my little friend Judy to play cars as well, and we are crashing them into each other. And I keep saying, look what the kids are doing. Ooh, they just had a big car wreck. I wonder if your car could drive over there and crash into their cars. And for a while she's not interested, and then all of a sudden she drives her car over and crashes it into some other kid's car. Yay, we just crossed the line. She's now interacting with a peer instead of with me, which is obviously a step in the right direction. That's what we want. We want to keep redirecting at all times towards kids, towards kids. Don't just interact with me. Try your peers. They're fun too. In fact, they probably are much more fun than I am. During parallel play, the previous stage, all the kid is going to do is interact with me because I'm the adult, I'm easier to interact with. But when I keep on saying, crash his car, or take her your pancakes, or she looks like she could use a cup of tea, then we are transitioning this into a joint play activity, a cooperative play activity between peers, rather than a teacher-student or a parent-child thing, which is a lot less fun and, of course, less developmentally appropriate. The last stage I'm going to mention is the pinnacle, and for many kids this doesn't happen for quite a long time because it's pretty challenging. And this is pretend play. Pretend play is imaginatory. It is, we are pretending to be the princesses and you are pretending to be the dragons, and we have to make friends somehow. Usually there's violence involved in all children games, but we try to tone that down. In fact, I made a video about that you can watch right up there. This is where the kids have taken the reins and they are just make-believing all over the place and are being creative altogether. A lot of our kids with developmental delays don't get to this stage very easily because of the language barriers that they face, because of the difficulties with social interaction. But as much as we can support them through the previous stages of play development, they can, of course, reach this stage as well. Why not? We just have to keep being persistent and keep redirecting them to their peers instead of to us or other adults. I hope this video gave you lots to think about. Don't hesitate to leave questions below if you have them. I will put some more resources for you about play in the information box below this video. Hopefully that is helpful to you. Don't forget to take a peek at my website where I have lots and lots of play resources for you available, and I will put a link to that down below too. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.